we'll start with Jim. I think he's a little bit more where I am at in terms of using some of the more traditional methods. Jim's bio's up there. I love these bios. I never knew Jim was a mandolin player, but he's also, one of the founders of the Wellington Wrap program and still supporting that program. He's a beekeeper, about 900 hives for honey and pollination production. So really happy to have Jim here, and I'll let you take it over here, Jim.
I wanted to start, welcome everybody. I can't say that I'm in the Stone Age for record keeping, but I have various methods for tracking things. Now, this is a whiteboard. I don't think this is an adequate method for record keeping. In my mind, this is more a method of tracking things and working with your crew on a day-to-day basis. So you can have 1 or 2 or 3 of your crew come in and have a discussion and either use a chalkboard or a whiteboard. You see that's half my yards on the one side there to the left. And that's okay for just day-to-day type stuff. But the disadvantage to a whiteboard is somebody leans up against it and what was there yesterday is gone today. Or with the chalkboard, what was there yesterday is gone today. So we're trying to move away from that and into different methods. And so in my mind, we're trying to track individual hives. We're trying to track yards and what has been done through the season in yards. But there's a third thing that's quite important really, and that is tracking honey. So for a commercial, even a small commercial beekeeper that has multiple barrels or multiple drums or however you store that honey, you need to have it in lot numbers. And then if you're pumping it into tanks, you need to record what lot number's being pumped into what tank and what the date is. So one of the easiest and one of the best things that I have found is something that's called like a day timer or a calendar. Real simple. I can't say I'm in the computer age, so to speak. So a pen and a calendar work well. Is it right or is it wrong? No. It's a written it's a written record. It's something you can refer back to. And here you see, I do have a record of this in that I have taken a picture of it. And so it's handy that way. But I think there's other methods, and we'll get on to that. Okay, now quickly, something that I learned growing up, third generation beekeeper, was my dad always had crayons. And he wasn't coloring with them. He was writing on hives. And it used to bother my mom if a pair of his jeans or coveralls went through the wash and there was a crayon left in there because everything had come out red or everything had come out blue. So you try to avoid that. That's one thing, Paul Kelly with the bee belt, you can slide the crayon in the bee belt and it's not going through the wash. But anyways, we have a habit of writing on hives. What's going on in a hive? So you see the front of that. Those are nice looking hives. This is the end of September. I've written the queen source on the front of the hive. It's a record not only for this season, but for next season. So then you're able to look at it and say, oh, it wintered well, it wintered poorly. What works through the summer may not work through the winter. What works through the summer may work through the winter, but in the spring, if they're hanging in the trees, they're no good. And so you're saying, okay, maybe that queen source, or maybe I should be looking at things differently for my genetic stock or whatever. But anyways, these were healthy hives, and for the most part, pretty good queen stock, and I was pleased with things. Once again, you see writing on the front of the hives, tracking things. This again is fall time. They look real good. So we'll use a marker and mark a lot of the time things like queen source, or if there's queen changing cells, that kind of thing, we'll mark it. We have more of a tendency to mark it on the front of the hive. Other day-to-day stuff we'll write on top of the hive. So if you've got a bunch of hives in a yard, 28 or 32 or 40 hives in a yard, and you're writing all your information on the lid, and there's 2 or 3 guys working in the yard, and one guy picks up the wrong lid and puts it on the other hive, all of a sudden your notes disappear. Or, well, they don't disappear, but they're wrong. So things like queen information, we try to write that on the front of the hive. More day-to-day stuff that I'm not going to worry about, let's say 5 or 6 weeks down the road, we'll write on top of the hive. So there are times too, I have Mexican guys that work for me, and there'll be times we might be into a yard and say, okay, we're going to be back 4 or 5 days later. We're going to be back at the end of the week, and we're going to do something, whatever. And there might be 1 or 2 hives, though, in that yard. We've just requeened it. We've done something. You don't want anybody touching that hive. You want good acceptance. So I mark on the lid NTC, and sometimes an exclamation mark right on the lid, something that is really going to get their attention. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what NTC stands for. Oh, go ahead. There you go. No tocar. That means do not touch. And so, yeah, this is an easy way, though, for not only myself to track things, but whoever else is working with me. Now, like I say, I don't think there's a right and wrong way to do a lot of this stuff. I have tried barcodes, and doing that method 20 years ago, it's not right for me and my operation. I'm not saying it wouldn't work for you. Okay, so I take a day timer, and I just write down, this is from 2020, I think. So just my daily activities, what I'm doing. It's rough, it's whatever. But the nice thing I like about these day timers is, I didn't take a picture of the other side too, but the other side of the day timer usually has a column, and I can make special notes in that column. I can signify something. It also usually has 4 or 5 or 6 pages at the back where I can make notations about things, whatever. The reason I like this is I can go back, I don't know, several weeks later and refer to it. But sometimes I like it because the following year, I can refer back to it and I can say, okay, how are we lining up this week, this year compared to last year at this time of the season? Are we ahead? Are we behind? Et cetera, et cetera. So this is simple, and yet this is a way to track things not only day to day, week to week, year to year. And so really, in a lot of ways, this can be also a legal document. And why would you be worried about something like that? Well, if somehow there's residue found in your honey, or if there's, some sort of a problem or whatever, we can look at things and we can say, oh, well, we didn't put treatments on, we didn't apply anything, this is an environmental exposure. It's not something that I've done. This is something that the bees have found in a mud puddle or whatever. So this is why something like this is pretty handy. Now, how are we doing for time? Okay. Now, I wanted to just make a notation here and say, regarding honey sales, I'm considering a reward system for my customers that buy $100 or more of honey. I think I could give them one of these. Now, can everybody see what that is? It's not a toothbrush. It's a Trump brush, though. Anyways, yes, there's the end. Now, just a quick note here. When we were talking about hives and making notation on the hives, one of the worst scenarios I find is when I get into a yard and, well, I don't know if it's a worst scenario, but we get into a yard. There's a crew of us working through the yard, and we work through the entire yard. You get to the last hive, and it's like, shucks. I need brood. It's queenless. There's a problem here. We've already gone through 31 other hives or 39 other hives. You got to go back in, and I hate digging back into the hives that you've already worked. And so the nice thing, I mean, you can't always avoid that because things can happen in a 2-week period or whatever. But the advantage is, if I was here 2 weeks previous and there was a problem with that hive, we'll mark queen ? Or cells or celda on the front, or we'll mark something on it and note it so that when we're there 2 weeks later, you take a quick scan of the yard and you look around and you say, this was a problem hive and this was a problem hive. So you take a quick check of those, and then as we're digging into the other hives, you can say, oh, I can pull a frame of brood here, or I can pull a frame of eggs here, or I can do what I need to manipulate the hive so that it is a healthy and somewhat working hive, even if it has a queen problem or whatever. And I mean, I saw this years ago when we had problematic hives, maybe just winter hard. And I'm saying like 25 years ago or whatever. and not necessarily dead hives, just you knew some had wintered hard, maybe had a bit of dysentery, whatever. You get things worked through and you get into your season and you start and pull honey and you're pulling 3 to 4 supers off of each hive, and your production is pretty well equal throughout the yard. So that's one of the advantages of record keeping. And like I say, record keeping just on top of or in front of, on the front of the hive, and tracking it so that you can keep a hive in a good producing position throughout the season. Okay.
That's great, Jim. And so I think we'll save the questions and ask them together here. And so our next speaker, Jacob Parker, both of you guys are third generation beekeepers. I don't know how that lined up, but this is great. So Jacob's moved on quite a bit farther than where I'm at in my record keeping, using a neat app. He's going to tell us a bit about that. Jacob and his family run Charlie Bee Honey. Last numbers I heard was around 5,000 hives you're maybe running. 3,000 in the winter this year. Yeah. So you get to a certain level, I think you don't count your hives too carefully anymore, do you? So he'll tell us about the app they're using and how that helps them manage an operation at that scale and for the pollination service and everything. Thanks, Jacob.
Morning, everybody. So anyway, my name is Jacob. My family runs Charlie Bee Honey. We put about 3,000 hives into winter last year. We are using the MyApiary app. It's based out of New Zealand. We found that over all the apps that we kind of evaluated over the last 2 years, was going to be the best fit for our operation and what we're looking to do with it. Basically, we peaked at about 3,800 hives last season. Our operation, we do tenderfruit pollination in Niagara, blueberry pollination on the East Coast, large-scale honey production, and packing as well, splits and nukes to sustain our operation through the summer. A lot of the benefits that we found using the app was basically time saving for us. So I have 7 migrant workers in our operation, and every morning we would go through what they did the prior day, and it was all hard copy paper, taking basically 30 minutes a day in the morning, transposing what they did into a book, and then reorganizing what that current day is going to be for work. And I figure that's 30 minutes a day times 8 guys. It's a lot of productivity time that gets eaten up every day through the week, through the season. The record keeping is a lot more intense now. The more you put into the project, the more you get out of it at the end of the season, as far as what you're able to see when you look back at what you did and see what the bees did yard to yard, and things like that. Like reporting data and what your mite levels were, disease profiles, and things like that. Remote job carting was a huge plus for me as well. Again, the guys would go out to work every day, come back in the evening. The work would be then transposed to the app, and then from there, I could be at home programming work for the next day. And that's where we gained that 30 minutes every morning. And as well as yard locating, trying to send guys that don't exactly speak English to a bee yard out in the boonies. It gets kind of tough sometimes. But this app works with Google Maps, so they have a tablet in the truck, and they're able just to hit go, and the GPS routes them right to the bee yard. And you can mark an entrance and the yard location for eliminating errors like that. So I basically kind of won this whole presentation, and I'm going to take some pointers from Jim as well, and kind of touch base on where we were prior to using the app. My crew still gets the crayon stains in the coveralls because we work on a marking system a lot for each hive for our pollination and grading. So we use a 1, 2, 3 method. So a 1 would be overly strong or more strong than we need if it's going to swarm. Basically, there's extra resources there. And then a 2 would be it's just strong enough to go to pollination or do what we've got to do. It's not going to swarm. It'll grow nicely with an extra box or a honey super. And a 3 would be it needs some resources. We also will mark on the lid sometimes, QL for queenless, things like that. Prior to that, we were using colored push pins for marking our queens. Each color basically meant a different country of origin, whether it was Chile or Australia or US, things like that. We've then adapted that into a printed Avery sticker. So that sticker then says the producer's name as well as the year that queen was inputted. We still use that just because the management app that we're using goes on yard basis. So that it's not as in-depth as some of the other apps available. So basically that right there is the old school work order. Every morning, handwritten, the guys take it out to the yard, check off that they've done the job. They come back, and then I transpose it into an Excel spreadsheet, basically, that I've printed off. So we would have different spreadsheets for different types of the season. So on the left is spring splitting. So what date, how many were split, whether they got queens or cells, pin color, or we would write in, after we got rid of the pins, we would write in which producer it was. On the right is our fall moving. So basically this would be our wintering yard where we're going to group more hives in. Typically we could put the date, the number of hives that got moved in, and the basically supplied yard that came into that yard. And then our summer pulling. So again, I'm writing all of this in every day. My guys are pulling 10 yards a day. I got 3 different crews. I've got to write the date in every time. So this is our main yard list. The date they were dropped, supers, if they were pulled, room check, when they were pulled to the chamber, and if we've got strips in yet or not, basically. And then on the right there, we have our individual yard sheet. So we go through, and that's how we kept track of the heights of colonies, how many supers were on each yard, had doubles, singles, 1.5s, things like that. And that worked for a lot of years. With this exact system, we ran 12,000 hives with it. It worked well, but times are changing and things needed to be more efficient for us. So then from the printed sheet, so that printed sheet where I wrote down was 3 seasons ago. 2 seasons ago, I changed to a Google sheet, which was editable on my laptop, and on my phone. Basically, I took our old school printed sheets, transposed them into the Google sheet, and was able to just type in every day. But the system was still the same. Work orders in, work orders out, time every morning. But it was nice to be able to edit through the day, be able to say, okay, we've got patties on, they got feed, and probably over here where it got cut off is, how many drums of feed went into each yard. It was nice to be able to see all of that all on one paper and not have to flip through a book. And then we switched to an app, an online operating system. So basically from this, I'm able to schedule the work from a computer. My crew can take a tablet out to a bee yard, see what has to be done in each yard. Basically jot down what they do just by typing on the screen. And a lot of it is just single tap or maybe 3 taps to finish each yard. And then, wrong button. Then from there, we've got the reporting side of things, reviewing the sites, and then back to square one. So the next bunch of slides is going to be from the program screenshots that basically illustrate what we're doing day to day and how we're able to use it. So on this one here is job carding. So every evening or every night before work, These are all customizable job cards, which have in each card has a set of tasks again that are customizable. So, and it's all drag and drop. So I can drag one in, select a set of yards or an area that have to be gone through, and select the tasks for that job card, or add other tasks that need to be done for that yard. So this would be that group of yards, and I can select all of them or individual ones. You know, we're going to do a hive audit. We're going to feed protein, clean up, and put a bee cleanse feed supplement on them. Or I can add more tasks or take some away, depending on what has to be done that time of season. And then this is the work for the week. Basically what my guys would see, the area, you know, everything's color coded, where things have to go for which days. And then, you know, this is day one. So these are the yards. There's your grouping. You can click on that, get to the yard with a GPS. From there, you're in the yard. You know, you click on each one, you see which tasks have to be completed. And from there, you would go through and say, yep, I was on the site for an hour. You'd fill in each job or each task. So there was, let's say, 48 hives. You fed protein, and you'd be able to select which type of supplement you used, as well as any feeding supplements. And if they were in there and saw something else that needed to be done, they can also add that themselves. And if, did I skip one? No, I just have things backwards. So this is the reporting side of things. So it's kind of janky right now because it's the end of the season. I've got all my hives in one yard, and it kind of looks a little messed up. But throughout the season, this is just for February and March, but it'll have every month, and it'll show you a graph of your hive numbers as well as your hive strength. So it'll go from green to yellow to red, showing you your strong, your weak, and your medium strength colonies, as well as a super chart to see how many supers are on your hives in each month. You can monitor your hive deaths throughout the season, disease observations, requeening, and as well as you can keep track of the reasons they died, observations for disease, requeening, and why you requeened, and then what consumables you used, whether it be equipment, pollen sub, sugar feed, or fondant, anything like that. And then all of that information gives you a graph with costs that are incurred, because you can enter your own cost and your own any information you wanted basically into it, the cost of each supplement, the cost of each piece of equipment, whatever it may be. And this probably looks a lot like my spreadsheet that I had printed off. But this is through the program with every part of information that I do. The date that it was last visited, the yard, what type of yard it is, doubles, splits, singles, and as well as its strengths and things like that, which is kind of nice to see as a snapshot if we were looking for something. For instance, my dad and I were going through yesterday doing egg stability information, and I needed hive numbers from last spring, the following fall, or the prior fall, as well as, you know, mid-season at our peak. So I was able to just narrow down which months the program was going to show me, and it gave me the maximum number of hives for that program for that month, and we just submitted it to Agri Stability. This is just a card where it would show you your areas that you preset, how many production colonies are in that area specifically, if you've got any nukes, how many supers. This will show you what treatment you put in and what your timeline is. If you just put it in, you select how many days that treatment is going to be in for. Like if it's formic and you needed to be back there in 5 days to replenish, then it'll actually show you 2 green strips or 2 red strips saying you've got to get there and go do it. And then on the far right, it shows you what the last job you did in that yard was. And then these are the job card. So when you go into your yard and you've completed all the work, this is what it asks you after the fact. Did you check for disease? Are there any new deaths? Varroa threshold. Did you check for Varroa? And did you requeen? And all of that is just a drop down. Yep, I did. You say, oh, I saw some EFB, how many hives, and then all of anything you put in, how many hives were dead, why they died, what you checked for Varroa, and why you requeened. All of that ends up in a report at the end of the day. And that you can go back to multiple seasons from now and look at. I think that's pretty much probably my time. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing your experience. Actually, a question to you with regard to selection of this specific application. Did you consider other options on the market? And if yes, why did you choose this one?
Yeah, so I looked at 3 or 4 different options that are out there. The reason I chose this one is due to the fact that, like, basically cost effectiveness for our operation. A lot of the other apps out there are hive based with QR codes or barcodes. We felt that was really unnecessary for us to track each individual hive. It's a great system, but for us, it's just a little more over and above. And for each one of those apps, it seemed to charge you exponentially for growth. So you had hive tiers for your cost. And that went up the more you grew, as well as the fact that you had to buy the QR codes and the holders. This app here is yard based, and it's cheap for us, to be honest.
Thank you.
Nice. And maybe Paul Kelly has a question back there.
Nothing too important, but I'm just curious how your crew have got onto the system, and if that's been much of a hurdle, or is it how that worked out? If just comment.
The first month was a bit of a challenge, mostly because there's some older guys in our crew. So technology was a little scary. They were a little hesitant at first, but once I told them, no, this is how it's going, they slowly figured it out. The first year was obviously a challenge. Like, some of the reports are a little askew because I found partway through that they could have been entering information differently. But that'll be a change this year for sure. And then what it came out to as well was the more you put into it and the more you get out of it.
So I got an online question. Outside of inputting your own operational specific data, were there many of the fields already a part of the preloaded into the app, or how much customization do you have?
So the app itself came with a number of preloaded job cards and tasks. Basically, that's the industry standard. And then all of that over and above was customizable. So I could delete job cards or tasks that didn't matter to my operation, or I could take the ones that were there and edit them to fit us more specifically.